Look at that! I can't believe he did that! You monster, how could you?
The text came at exactly 1:03 a.m., lighting up my phone like a neon sign in a graveyard. Busy now, I'll reach out soon. From my wife of 7 years. At 1 a.m, on what was supposed to be her double shift at Memorial Hospital. I'm Eric Mason, 35 years old, and I've been a locksmith for the past 3 years since I quit being a cop. You learn to read people in both professions. Locks don't lie, and neither do guilty faces. Jamie's been wearing one for weeks. Busy saving lives, honey? I texted back, my fingers moving faster than my brain could filter the sarcasm. No response. I sat in our modest living room, surrounded by the life we'd built together. Wedding photos on the mantel, her nursing school diploma next to my police academy graduation picture. 7 years of marriage, and suddenly she's too busy at 1 a.m. to talk to her husband. My phone buzzed. Not Jamie. My mother. Eric, are you awake? I saw Jamie's car at that new apartment complex on Maple Street. The one they converted from the old firehouse. Thought you should know. My blood turned to ice water. The converted firehouse. Where Troy Benton lives. Troy, the golden boy firefighter with his perfect smile and his Instagram full of shirtless rescue photos. Troy, who'd been showing up at our neighborhood barbecues with increasing frequency. Troy, who always seemed to find reasons to talk to Jamie about medical emergencies and first aid techniques. I typed back to my mother, "Thanks, Mom. I'll handle it." Then I sent Jamie another text. "No need to reach out. Stay with him. We're done." I hit send at 1:08 a.m. At 1:10 a.m., I heard her car screech into our driveway. By 1:11, she was pounding on the front door like the house was on fire, which, in a way, it was. Eric, open the door. Let me explain." I walked to the window and pulled back the curtain. There she was, my beautiful wife, standing in the rain in her scrubs, mascara running down her cheeks like black tears. Her blonde hair was disheveled, and she had that panicked look I'd seen on suspects when they realized their alibi had fallen apart. "Eric, please! It's not what you think!" Oh, but it was exactly what I thought. And I had 7 years of marriage and 3 years of police experience to back up my instincts. I opened the door just enough to speak through the chain lock. A locksmith's irony wasn't lost on me. "Jamie, at 1 a.m., a married woman who's too busy for her husband should come with a warning label. You want to explain? Start with why my mother saw your car at Troy's place." Her face went white. "Your mother was spying on me?" "My mother was driving home from her book club. Try again." The rain was getting heavier, and neighbors' lights were starting to flick on. Mrs. Henderson from next door had her curtains cracked open. Jamie noticed too. "Eric, let me in. We can't do this here." "We're not doing this anywhere. You made your choice at 1 a.m. when you texted me like I was some inconvenient appointment you needed to reschedule. It's not like that." "Then what's it like, Jamie? Enlighten me. What kind of medical emergency requires you to be at a firefighter's apartment at 1 a.m? She opened her mouth, then closed it. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. "That's what I thought," I said. "Go back to your hero. I'm sure he's wondering where his damsel in distress went." I started to close the door, but she pressed against it. "Eric, wait. I can explain everything." "No need. I'm a locksmith now, remember? I'm good at knowing when something doesn't fit." The next morning, I called in sick to work. Not exactly a lie. I was sick. Sick of being played for a fool. Jamie had spent the night at her sister's, according to the voicemail she left at 3 a.m. Her sister lived in Boston. Convenient. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. 7 missed calls from Jamie. 12 text messages ranging from, "Please call me," to, "I love you. We can work this out." The last one, sent at 6:30 a.m., was different. "I'm coming home at noon. We need to talk." At 11:45 a.m., I heard her key in the lock. She walked into the kitchen looking like she'd aged 5 years overnight. Good. Betrayal should leave marks. Eric, I know you're angry. Angry? I laughed, and it sounded hollow even to me. Jamie, angry is when you leave the dishes in the sink. Angry is when you forget to record my shows. What I am is something entirely different. She sat down across from me, her hands folded like she was praying. Maybe she was. It started 6 months ago, she said quietly. Troy came into the ER with a minor burn from a kitchen fire at the station. We got to talking. Talking, right. Is that what we're calling it now? Eric, please, let me finish. I gestured for her to continue. This was going to be good. He was going through a divorce. I was feeling distant from you. You were working so much, and when you came home, you were tired and... Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. So, you decided to play nurse with the local hero. How original. Her face flushed. It wasn't like that at first. We were just friends. He understood the stress of emergency work. You never did. I was a cop for 12 years, Jamie. I think I understand stress. But you quit. You gave up and became a locksmith. There it was. The real issue. I'd left the force after a shooting. A clean shoot. But it messed with my head. Jamie had been supportive at first, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes when I traded my badge for lock picks and key cutters. So you upgraded to a man who runs into burning buildings instead of away from them. I get it. That's not fair. Fair. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been telling me you were unhappy. Fair would have been marriage counseling. Fair would have been divorce papers before you started screwing the local fire department. She flinched like I'd slapped her. How long? I asked. Eric. How long, Jamie? 3 months. 3 months. 90 days of lies, fake smiles, and working late. 90 days of me making dinner for 2 and eating alone. 90 days of her coming home smelling like someone else's cologne and blaming it on hospital disinfectant. Who else knows? She looked down at her hands. Kendra helped cover for me sometimes. Kendra. Jamie's best friend since nursing school. The fitness instructor who'd been to our house dozens of times, eating our food, drinking our wine, looking me in the eye while she helped my wife cheat. Anyone else? Some of the girls at work knew I was struggling with our marriage, so the whole hospital knew. Perfect. My humiliation was a team effort. What do you want, Jamie? Forgiveness? A fresh start? What's the end game here? I want to work this out. I made a mistake, but I love you. I chose to come home. You came home because you got caught. There's a difference. She reached across the table for my hand, but I pulled it away. Eric, please. We can get through this. Couples recover from affairs all the time. Do they recover from public humiliation? Because that's what this is. My mother saw your car, Jamie. The neighbors heard you screaming on the porch last night. How long before everyone knows that Eric Mason's wife was playing house with the town hero? It doesn't have to be public. I laughed again, that same hollow sound. Sweetheart, in a town this size, your affair is already public. The only question is whether I'm going to be the pathetic husband who takes you back, or the one who grows a spine. Her face changed then. The pleading expression hardened into something I'd never seen before. So what are you saying? I'm saying you made your choice 3 months ago. Now I'm making mine. That afternoon, while Jamie packed a bag to stay at her sister's, until we figure things out, I called my old partner from the force. Marty Rodriguez. Wait, that's a forbidden name. Marty Sullivan. 40 years old, built like a beer truck, and currently working as a private investigator after taking early retirement from the department. If anyone could help me navigate this mess, it was Marty. Eric, How's civilian life treating you? Could be better, partner. I need a favor. Name it. I explained the situation. Marty listened without interrupting, which was unusual for him. Jesus, Eric. I'm sorry. Jamie seemed like one of the good ones. Yeah, well, appearances can be deceiving. What are my options here? Legally? You're in a no-fault state, so the affair doesn't matter for divorce proceedings. But if you want to make life interesting for Romeo and your wife, there might be some creative solutions. I'm listening. Give me a few days to look into Mr. Fire Hero. Everyone's got secrets, and guys like him usually have big ones. After Marty hung up, I sat in my empty house and tried to figure out how my life had imploded so completely. 7 years of marriage, gone. My reputation in town, probably shot. My trust in people, definitely destroyed. But as I sat there, something shifted inside me. The hurt was still there, but it was being joined by something else. Something colder and more calculating. I'd spent 3 years as a locksmith, learning that every security system has a weakness. Every lock can be picked if you know what you're doing. And I was very good at what I did. Jamie and Troy thought they'd locked me out of their little love story. They were about to learn that locks only work if the person on the other side doesn't have the right tools. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Kendra. Jamie told me what happened. Can we talk? I think there are some things you should know. Interesting. The enabler wanted to chat. This could be useful. I texted back. Coffee shop on Main Street, 1 hour. Kendra was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth and looking nervous. She was an attractive woman in her early 30s, all muscle and fake tan from her job at the fitness center. She'd always been friendly to me, but now I wondered how much of that was genuine and how much was guilt. Eric, I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. How far did you think it would go, Kendra? What was the acceptable level of betrayal? She winced. I know how it looks. But Jamie was really struggling. She felt like you'd given up on everything after you left the police force. She needed someone who understood her. So you helped her find someone. I introduced them, yes, but I thought it would just be friendship. I never encouraged the affair. But you covered for it. A few times, yes. I told you she was with me when she was really with Troy. I leaned back in my chair. What else, Kendra? You didn't ask me here just to apologize. She looked around the coffee shop, then leaned forward. There's something Jamie doesn't know. About Troy. I'm listening. He's been doing this for years. Targeting married women, especially ones in healthcare. He gets off on the hero worship, and when things get complicated, he moves on to the next one. How do you know this? Because I wasn't his first conquest. 2 years ago, before I knew Jamie was interested, Troy and I had a thing. He told me I was special, that his marriage was over, all the usual lines. Then one day he just stopped calling. This was getting better by the minute. Did you tell Jamie this? I tried to, but she wouldn't listen. She said Troy told her about his past relationships and he was different with her. Of course he was. Kendra reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. Eric, I need to show you something. Troy has a group chat with some of the other firefighters. They call it the Rescue Squad. They rate the women they've been with and share details. She turned her phone toward me. The messages were exactly what you'd expect from a group of overgrown frat boys. Crude, detailed, and devastating. Jamie was mentioned by name, along with several other women I recognized from around town. Jesus Christ. There's more. They're planning some kind of celebration for Troy. Apparently, Jamie isn't the first married nurse he's conquered, and the guys want to throw him a party. I felt something dark and cold settle in my chest. Not just anger, something more focused, more dangerous. Kendra, I need you to do something for me. What? I need you to get me into that group chat. 3 days later, I had everything I needed. Kendra had managed to get screenshots of the entire rescue squad chat history going back 2 years. Troy Benton wasn't just a serial cheater. He was a predator who specifically targeted vulnerable married women and then bragged about it to his buddies. The chat revealed his entire playbook. He'd targeted at least 6 married women in the past 2 years, including a teacher, 2 nurses, a bank teller, and a real estate agent. The firefighters rated each conquest and shared intimate details that would destroy these women's reputations and marriages. Jamie was just the latest trophy. Marty came over that evening with a bottle of whiskey and a folder full of information. "Your boy Troy is a piece of work," he said, settling into my couch. 3 complaints filed against him with the fire department for inappropriate behavior, all swept under the rug because he's their golden boy. What kind of complaints? Sexual harassment, mostly. A few domestic calls where he allegedly got too friendly with the female victims. Nothing that stuck. But there's a pattern. I poured 2 glasses of whiskey. What about his divorce? Finalized 6 months ago. Wife cited adultery and got half of everything. But here's the interesting part. She's willing to talk. Apparently, Troy has a very specific type, and your wife fits it perfectly. Meaning, blonde, married, works in healthcare or education, has a husband in a boring job. He specifically targets women who feel unappreciated or neglected. The whiskey burned, but not as much as the truth. So, what's the play here, Eric? You want to expose him? Ruin his career? I want to destroy him. Completely. Him and everyone who helped make this possible. Marty raised an eyebrow. That's a dangerous road, partner. They should have thought about that before they decided to make me the laughingstock of this town. Over the next hour, we planned it out. Not just revenge, complete social and professional annihilation. Troy, Jamie, Kendra, and every firefighter in that group chat were going to learn what happens when you humiliate the wrong person. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. In 3 days, the fire department was hosting their annual charity auction at the community center. The whole town would be there, including the mayor, city council, and local media. It was Troy's night to shine. He was being honored for his community service. It was also going to be the night his world ended. "You sure about this?" Marty asked as he prepared to leave. "Once we pull this trigger, there's no going back. They crossed the line first. I'm just returning the favor." The next morning, I started making calls. The first was to Troy's ex-wife, Sarah. She agreed to meet me for lunch, and what she told me confirmed everything I suspected. "Troy is a narcissist," she said over salad at a restaurant 2 towns over. "He needs constant validation, especially from women who are supposed to be unavailable. The challenge is what gets him off." "How did you find out about the affairs?" "He got sloppy. Left his phone unlocked one night, and I saw the group chat. 23 different women over the course of our 5-year marriage. He kept photos, videos, even recorded some of their phone conversations." My blood ran cold. Recorded conversations? Oh yes. Troy documents everything. He's got a whole digital collection of his conquests. Calls it his insurance policy in case any of them try to cause trouble. This changed everything. If Troy had recorded conversations with Jamie, or worse, photos and videos, this wasn't just about an affair anymore. This was about blackmail and exploitation. "Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Do you still have access to any of Troy's digital files?" She smiled for the first time since we'd sat down. "Eric, I may have been a cheated-on wife, but I wasn't a stupid one. I copied everything before I filed for divorce." "Everything?" "Photos, videos, audio recordings, chat logs, even his browser history. 5 years of evidence that Troy Benton is a sexual predator who targets vulnerable women. Would you be willing to share that information? With the right person, for the right reason? Absolutely." That evening, I sat in my home office with Sarah's flash drive, Marty's investigation files, and Kendra's screenshots spread across my desk. What I was looking at wasn't just evidence of an affair. It was evidence of a systematic pattern of sexual exploitation that had destroyed multiple marriages and families. Troy had photos and videos of at least 12 different women, including Jamie. He had recorded phone conversations where he manipulated them into leaving their husbands. He had a detailed rating system that included not just physical attributes, but psychological vulnerabilities. This man wasn't just a cheater, he was a predator, and in 2 days, everyone in town was going to know it. The morning of the charity auction, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. Today, the truth would come out. Today, justice would be served. I'd spent the previous day making final preparations. The community center's audio-visual system was controlled by a simple computer setup, child's play for someone with my technical background. I'd also reached out to 3 local news stations and 2 newspapers, promising them a story that would make their careers. At 2 p.m., my phone rang. Jamie. Eric, I know you're still angry, but I wanted you to know that I've ended things with Troy, completely. I told him yesterday that I'm committed to saving our marriage. How noble of you. I'm serious. I made a terrible mistake, but I want to make it right. Can we please try counseling? Jamie, let me ask you something. In the 3 months you were sleeping with Troy, did he ever record your conversations? Silence. Jamie, why would you ask that? Just answer the question. Maybe? He liked to video call sometimes, and he said he wanted to remember our conversations. Did you send him photos? Another silence, longer this time. Jamie, did you send him photos? A few, but Eric, that's over now. I've asked him to delete everything. And you believe he will? Yes, he promised. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Jamie, Troy has been running the same scam on married women for years. You're not special to him. You're just another trophy in his collection. That's not true. You're just saying that because you're hurt. I'm saying it because I have proof. I have photos, videos, recorded conversations, a group chat where he and his firefighter buddies rate their conquests and share intimate details. You're lying. Am I? Ask him about the rescue squad group chat. Ask him about Sarah Martinez, the teacher he seduced 2 years ago. Ask him about Jennifer Walsh, the bank teller whose marriage ended because of him. Ask him about the rating system he uses to score the women he manipulates. I could hear her breathing, fast and shallow. Eric, how do you know all this? Because unlike you, I did my research before I committed to someone. What are you going to do? I'm going to make sure everyone knows who Troy Benton really is, and everyone who helped him. Eric, please, think about what this will do to me, to my career. You should have thought about that 3 months ago. I hung up. At 6 p.m. I arrived at the community center. The place was packed, easily 300 people, including most of the town's leadership and several members of the press I'd contacted. Troy was holding court near the silent auction tables, resplendent in his dress uniform, accepting congratulations and handshakes. Jamie was there too, standing with a group of nurses from the hospital. She looked pale and kept glancing around nervously. Kendra was beside her, equally uncomfortable. At 7 p.m., the formal program began. The fire chief gave a speech about community service and heroism. The mayor presented Troy with a commendation. Local business leaders praised his dedication. At 7:30, it was Troy's turn to speak. He walked to the podium with that confident swagger I'd grown to hate. The crowd applauded enthusiastically. He was their hero, their golden boy, their symbol of everything good about their community. Thank you all for this incredible honor, he began, his voice carrying easily through the sound system I'd modified earlier that day. Being a firefighter isn't just about running into burning buildings. It's about serving this community in every way possible. That was my cue. I pulled out my phone and activated the program I'd installed in the community center's computer system. The large screens around the room, which had been showing photos of Troy's heroic deeds, suddenly switched to a different kind of slideshow. The first image was a screenshot of the rescue squad group chat, with Troy's name clearly visible as the administrator. The crowd murmured, confused. The second image was a photo Troy had taken of himself with Jamie, both of them clearly in bed together. The murmur became a gasp. The third image was the rating system Troy and his friends used to score their conquests, with names and intimate details clearly visible. By the fourth image, the room had erupted into chaos. "What the hell is this?" Troy shouted into the microphone, but his voice was drowned out by the crowd's reaction. I stood up from my seat in the back of the room. That, Troy, is the truth. The community center fell silent as I walked toward the stage. 300 pairs of eyes followed my movement, but I only cared about 3 sets: Troy's, Jamie's, and Kendra's. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, my voice carrying without the microphone. "I apologize for interrupting this celebration, but I thought you should know who you're really honoring tonight." Troy stepped back from the podium, his face white with rage and fear. "Eric, you son of a—" "Careful, Troy. There are children present. Wouldn't want to tarnish that hero image any more than it already is." The screens continued cycling through the evidence. Photos, chat logs, audio transcripts, and a detailed list of Troy's victims over the past 5 years. The crowd's shock was giving way to anger, and it wasn't directed at me. Fire Chief Morrison stepped onto the stage. "Eric, what is this about?" "It's about the fact that your golden boy has been systematically targeting and exploiting married women in this community for years. It's about the fact that he documents his conquests like trophies and shares intimate details with his buddies. And it's about the fact that my wife was just his latest victim." I looked directly at Jamie, who was standing frozen near the back of the room. "But she wasn't really a victim, was she? Because victims don't choose their attackers. Victims don't lie to their husbands for 3 months. Victims don't recruit their best friends to help cover their tracks." Kendra tried to push through the crowd toward the exit, but several people blocked her path. "Oh no, Kendra," I called out. "You're part of this story too. Tell everyone how you helped coordinate their meetings. Tell them how you lied to me dozens of times to cover for them." Troy finally found his voice. "This is all fake. He's making this up because he's jealous." "Really?" I pulled out my phone and connected it to the sound system. "Let's hear what you really think about your conquests, Troy." The recording filled the room. Troy's voice, clearly identifiable, describing in graphic detail his encounters with multiple women, including Jamie. He rated their performance, mocked their marriages, and bragged about his ability to manipulate them. "That woman thinks she's special," Troy's recorded voice said about Jamie. "They all do. But once I'm done with them, they're just another notch on the bedpost. The husband looks like a loser anyway. Ex-cop turned locksmith. What kind of man gives up being a cop to play with keys all day?" The crowd's murmur turned into an angry rumble. These were working-class people, and many of them were cops, firefighters, and tradesmen. Troy had just insulted not just me, but everyone like me. "You want to know what kind of man I am, Troy?" I stepped onto the stage. "I'm the kind of man who doesn't prey on vulnerable women. I'm the kind of man who keeps his promises, and I'm the kind of man who makes sure predators like you face consequences." Troy lunged at me, but I was ready. 3 years of locksmith work had kept me strong, and 12 years as a cop had taught me how to handle aggressive suspects. I sidestepped his charge and used his momentum to send him stumbling into the podium. The crowd surged forward, but not to help Troy. They were angry, and their anger was directed at him. "You piece of garbage!" shouted a woman I recognized as one of Troy's victims from the evidence files. "You destroyed my marriage." "My sister killed herself because of what you did to her," yelled a man from the middle of the crowd. Fire Chief Morrison grabbed Troy by the arm. "Benton, you're suspended pending a full investigation. Get out of here before this crowd tears you apart." But Troy wasn't done. He shook off the chief's grip and pointed at me. You think you've won? You think exposing me makes you a man? Your wife came to me because you're a failure. She begged me to take her away from you. That was his mistake. I walked over to where he stood, looked him in the eye, and spoke loud enough for the entire room to hear. Troy, my wife made a choice to betray our marriage. That's on her. But you made a choice to be a predator. You made a choice to target vulnerable women and exploit them. You made a choice to document their most intimate moments and share them with your friends for entertainment. That's not on her. That's on you. I turned to address the crowd. And everyone here needs to know that this isn't just about my marriage. This man has been destroying families in this community for years. The evidence is all there. Photos, videos, recordings, chat logs. He's not a hero. He's a predator who hides behind a uniform. The crowd pressed closer to the stage. Troy looked around desperately, realizing he was surrounded by people who now knew the truth about him. "This isn't over!" he shouted as two police officers finally pushed through the crowd to escort him out. "I'll sue you for defamation. I'll destroy you." "Good luck with that," I called after him. "Everything I've shown tonight is documented evidence that you created yourself. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation." As Troy was led away, I turned to find Jamie. She was still standing near the back of the room, tears streaming down her face, surrounded by her co-workers who were looking at her with a mixture of pity and disgust. "Jamie," I said, my voice carrying across the now quiet room, "you wanted excitement. You wanted a hero. You wanted someone who would make you feel special. Well, congratulations. You got exactly what you wanted. And now everyone knows the price you were willing to pay for it." She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. "As for our marriage," I continued, "it ended 3 months ago when you made your choice. Tonight just made it official." The crowd began to disperse, people talking in hushed, angry tones about what they'd witnessed. Several of Troy's victims approached me to thank me for exposing him. Local reporters were already making phone calls to their editors. Fire Chief Morrison walked over to me as I gathered my things. "Eric, I want you to know that the department will be conducting a full investigation. If even half of what you've shown tonight is true, Benton will never work as a firefighter again." "It's all true, Chief. Every bit of it." "How did you get all this evidence?" "Troy's ex-wife kept copies of everything when she divorced him. She's been waiting for the right moment to make sure he couldn't hurt anyone else." Smart woman. Smarter than mine, apparently. As I walked toward the exit, Kendra intercepted me. "Eric, I know you hate me, but I need you to know that I never meant for this to happen. I was trying to help Jamie, but I see now that I just made everything worse." "Kendra, you didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. Every time you lied to me, every time you covered for them, every time you helped coordinate their meetings, those were choices, and choices have consequences. What happens now? Now everyone knows who you really are, just like they know who Troy really is, and who Jamie really is. The truth has a way of setting things straight." I walked out of the community center into the cool night air. Behind me, I could hear the buzz of conversation, the sound of a community processing the truth about one of their supposed heroes. My phone was already buzzing with calls from reporters, but I ignored them. The story would tell itself now. The evidence was public, the truth was out, and justice, real justice, was finally being served. I got into my truck and drove home to my empty house. But for the first time in months, it didn't feel empty. It felt clean. It felt honest. It felt like a place where I could start over. Tomorrow, Troy Benton would wake up unemployed and unemployable. His reputation would be destroyed, his career over, his social circle gone. The women he'd exploited would finally have justice, and the community would know the truth about their fallen hero. Jamie would wake up divorced, disgraced, and alone. Her career would survive, but her reputation wouldn't. She'd have to live with the knowledge that she'd thrown away a good marriage for a man who saw her as nothing more than a conquest to be documented and shared. And I would wake up free. Free from lies, free from betrayal, free from a marriage that had been poisoned by deception, free to rebuild my life on my own terms, with my integrity intact and my conscience clear. The truth had set me free. And it had destroyed everyone who'd tried to make me a fool. That was justice. That was revenge. That was exactly what they'd earned. The end. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.